Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order this meeting of the City Council for a budget workshop at 10 o'clock. For the audience here today, my name is David Friedendahl. I am the mayor of Glendora and serve as the presiding officer over the City Council meetings. In consideration of others and the business conducted today, please silence your phones and electronic devices and promotional devices, and refrain from speaking unless recognized. Again, this is a public meeting for the community of Glendora. We appreciate and respect your participation here this morning. For the record, I would announce that all members of the council are present and seated, ready to conduct our business. I will open our public comment period for public comments to be made and invite members of the public to address this legislative body. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes speaking once, both on and off agenda items. And if you're in the audience, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording admin before the close of public comment today. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. I would like to invite, are there any persons present in the audience wishing to make a public comment? Seeing none, I will inquire if any correspondence has been received about public comment.
No, Mayor.
Seeing none of that, I will then close public comment period and bring back to the business of the meeting. The first item is the possible appointment of San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games Ad Hoc Committee member, and invite City Manager Adam Raymond to report out, please.
Good morning, everyone. So used to saying good evening. Good morning. First item up, sort of a warm up before our larger discussion on the budget. The COG has reached out and asked if cities were interested in being on an ad hoc committee that they are setting up for the 2028 Olympics, both Olympics and Paralympics. The committee will run through the Paralympics in 2028. It'll be a Brown Act committee. The exact meeting time, meeting date, they're figuring out. The COG's going through a bunch of changes on meeting times with all of its boards and committees. And they are looking for both an appointee and an alternate. They can be council members or city staff members if we choose to participate. So what we're looking for this morning is two things. One, if the city would like to participate in that committee, and two, who we'd like to appoint if we do want to participate, and staff will return at a later date with a resolution to do the official appointments. However, we needed to get back to the COG at 5 p.m. on the 10th, and that wasn't going to work for us with our meeting on the 10th. So turn it over to you, Mayor. If there's any interest from you or your colleagues to participate as either the appointee or alternate, we're happy to inform the COG. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I'll bring it back for discussion. I think given the economic impact, or if nothing else, the awareness of what's happening around us, being on the inside of that information might be better than learning about it after the fact. But beyond that, I'll open up. And Mr. Thompson, any comments or questions?
Well, I would agree with what you just said. I think it's always good to be a part of that. And I do agree that one of us should be a part of that, and staff. And so I'm open to consider that, but it's certainly, I'm not looking for another job. So if anybody else has a passion for it, then I would gladly support you. But that's all I would have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Mendel. Karen?
And I would say ditto to everything Mr. Thompson just said.
Okay, great. Shauna?
I agree. I'm happy to take the appointment unless somebody else wants it. I don't think that my colleagues on the end want it, but if unless you want to take it, I'm happy to do that. Now, I do serve on SCAG, so I guess I would have to make sure that it doesn't conflict with my responsibilities for that. But otherwise, I think
Fair
it'd be
enough.
great.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
So we had a discussion yesterday at our briefing about this, and to Adam's point, the COG is going through a change as far as the different meeting schedules and trying to have overlapping. We're also talking about possibly having some of these meetings in the evening because a lot of my colleagues in other cities can't make them in the daytime. So we're talking about maybe putting them in, consolidating some of these and putting them more into the evening. So I would like to be considerate of that and have an alternate from staff to be part of this as well. This could be an economic interest to the city as well as a possible place for residential during the Olympics, things of that nature, not necessarily venues. But we're trying to work through this process right now, when to have these meetings to consolidate, not going back and forth to Monrovia several times a week or several times a day because of meeting overlaps. So whichever the council like to do.
All right. Well, I believe it sounds like the consensus is, yes, we should engage and be involved. Sounds like we have a willing party, schedules, depending, of course. I think it would, I support, I think a council member and a staff member would be appropriate. I would also be willing to serve as the alternate if necessary or in lieu of type thing to help this. But the more we can provide and gain information, I think we'll be better off. So.
Yeah, and staff is happy to provide whatever support is necessary, whether it's economic development or transportation-related matters. If there's two council members that want to do it, staff can definitely be on standby to help participate and facilitate any conversation that's necessary. So, Mayor, if there's a motion and a second for consideration of both the appointee and alternate, we're happy to take that back to the COG.
Yep, I would entertain such a motion. I will.
Oh, should I make a motion to appoint myself? Or should somebody
I
else
think
make
there's
the
a motion on the floor by the mayor. If we could get a second, is that?
Okay,
motion
yeah,
to
we can
do
do that. Well, tell you what, I will move that we participate in the committee and seek assignments with the recommendation that Shauna be appointed as the delegate and the alternate can be determined at a later time on staffing or council representation.
Okay, we'll return to council then with a resolution on that front if the motion passes.
We have a second?
So who's going to be alternate?
If it's going to be a staff member, we'll make a recommendation when we come back with the resolution. It'll just be a staff position title probably. That position could support. So talk with, looking at Jeff back there, one of his staff members probably would be the alternate. So staff member's not here to defend themselves yet. So, but yeah, that would be probably our tentative recommendation at this point, but we'll come back with the resolution on that front if this motion passes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And if we would please vote. Looks like motion carries 5-0 yay. Thank you very much. All right. Now on to the rest of the meeting for this gathering to conduct a fiscal year 2025 to 2027 budget workshop, learn about where the budget's going and the proposals. This is, I don't think it at a time that we're approving said budget, but rather opportunity to engage in give and take on the conversation. Is that, would I be correct on that? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So with that, I would like to invite Finance Director and City Treasurer Kyle Johnson to present. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and City Council. I'm glad the first item's out of the way because when I looked at the meeting, I thought I had from 10 to 1. So if I was given 3 hours, I was really going to make them count.
As far as we're concerned, Kyle, the two items should last the same amount of time. So
Okay, perfect.
the best of luck to you.
All right. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and get us started. Okay, so yes, budget workshop, we're here to engage on what will be presented to council next Tuesday at a public hearing. So what we'll be doing is we'll be going through the different sections of the budget, highlighting general fund, measures EZ, and the other funds, as well as the capital improvement program, and then going through the departments with final direction, staff seeking final direction from City Council on some funding priorities for measures EZ and a contribution to the GUSD pool program. So the budget is up on the city website under Finance Department Budget Reports. That's the adopted budget, so once adopted, it will go in that section there. Right now, it's just above the popular annual financial report on the city website. The city received 2 awards, one from the state government financial agency or association, and one from a national for its budget presentation. The budget was prepared with the strategic planning goals in mind. The city has taken a long-term approach to this budget and past budgets using this model for multi-year budgeting. As you can see here, this is the budget process working from the bottom to the top, and the departmental input and meetings take into consideration feedback from the community surveys and priorities identified by City Council in the strategic plan initiatives and objectives. And we're at the City Council workshop, which is second from the top on this list. And next week will be the presentation and adoption. So here's an overview of all the different fund types that are included in the city's budget. There's 7 of them. So we budget for 7 different fund types, but within there are at least 60 different funds. Here are the overall revenues and expenditures, and the next slide will be for 26-27. In general, we have stable budget for across all funds. Special revenue would have been the one that if any decrease, that's where it usually is shown, just because we use multiple years worth of funding on capital projects, sometimes in one budget year. So here's 26-27, same schedule. So here's an overview of the citywide revenues, broken down by percentage. As you can see, taxes and charges for services are our largest citywide revenues. Taxes generally in the general fund, and charges for services generally representing the water utility. And then here it's the same. It's approximately 60% of revenues. The biggest change here in 27 is the intergovernmental revenue goes up, and that's because we're anticipating funding for the Finkbeiner Park stormwater capture project in approximately $18 million. Here's our citywide expenditures, general fund and enterprise funds, so the water fund taking up the largest piece, approximately 60%. Same here. And again, the note for special revenue jumping up because of the Finkbeiner Park stormwater capture project. Here we have the authorized FTEs by department or positions by department. As you can see, we have decreased to just above where we were at for fiscal years 24 and fiscal year 26 and 27. A lot of that is primarily reduced to some streamlining of positions and recognizing where we had vacant positions and have brought on board contractual services to perform those programs. A lot of that has happened in public works, in the engineering, where those have been very difficult to fill positions. Here's a reconciliation from what we had with the current amended 24-25 budget, the full-time positions, part-time positions, and then the final 25-26 budgeted positions. There's no change between 25 and 26, so it's the same FTEs in both years for the 2-year budget. What you won't see here are things that we'll be discussing later, are some position requests with the community impact team from the police department, and looking at those positions and what that would look like funded by measures E and Z. So now our focus is on general fund revenues. So it's broken, this bar chart goes across by type. As we can see, taxes, which include sales taxes and property taxes and franchise taxes, are the largest revenue generator for the general fund. And here we can see kind of the path that sales tax has taken over the last couple of years, and is consistent with the messaging or the experience that we've had and previous messaging at the State of the City and other budget meetings. Is over for fiscal years 24 and 25, we saw a slight reduction there, up to 1.35 million in sales tax, but after that, we'll call it drop off, working with the city's consultant, sales tax consultant, there is estimated increases over the next couple of years. So now we'll move on to general fund expenditures. So here it's broken down by department, and generally consistent with 24 actuals and then 25 amended budget. As you can see, and these numbers include some assumptions for ongoing and upcoming negotiations. And here it is by category. You can see personnel is the largest component of the general fund budget, and that's primarily because it provides for the people to provide the services to the community. And now we're going to do a quick focus on measures E and Z. As you can see, we split them out there. So in total, they'll add up to about the same amount as sales tax revenue on its own in the general fund. And we're looking at $11.4 billion between both. Transfers out is the biggest component of expenditures in measures E and Z, and that's primarily the transfer to stabilize or to balance the general fund, $5 and $6 million for the 2 fiscal years being proposed. The personnel and operations and maintenance expenditures in measures E and Z represent the community impact team and recreation and human services, as well as community development programs addressing housing and homelessness in those departments as well, and that fund. Now we're going to move on to the forecasts. So we split them out. So we have the general fund forecast and the measures EZ forecast. So we can see the activities in both funds and look at the level of revenue needed from the two supplemental sales taxes or transaction use taxes needed by the general fund. So this is a very high level view of the general fund forecast. There's more detail in the proposed budget document. All the line items have notes on the assumptions included for them in the proposed budget document as well. This just shows wanted to show the reliance on measures EZ for the general fund. So $5.5 million up to $6 million throughout the rest of the forecast. But still, we are maintaining our contingency reserve amount, which requires a 30 to 45% contingency reserve in the case of any kind of emergency, financial, fire, wind event, severe weather event, anything like that. That's what that's for. So at the high end at 45%, right, it's like just under 6 months if we were to receive no other revenue. That's what the city could operate for. So we're still within that range, meeting that criteria. This is the measures EZ forecast. You have all the lines there, just none of the notes, but those are, again, available in the proposed budget document. As you can see, measures EZ provide transfers out to multiple funds, with the general fund being the largest. One of the newer ones is the transfer out to the GUSD, which just represents pass-through costs for those police services that aren't fully funded, like the school resource officer and crossing guard services. And the one capital project in 24 is the Finkbeiner restrooms and pickleball courts. Other projects are funded through the transfer out to the CIP, so that would be line 12. So we still are running into these challenges, right? The city has a large need for infrastructure, for, deferred facilities maintenance, still navigating the economy and the impacts of shifting federal policies on the economy, any new state and federal mandates, and CalPERS. Last I looked, I think we are probably up close to their rate of return they're trying to get, but I don't think we're quite there yet. But we had made back everything that was lost, or that when the tariffs were first announced by the federal government. So it's gone up and gone above what was lost at that time. So we just need to get to June 30th and have it meet its goal. So we've got a few days left to get there. So this schedule will be presented again at the end of the slides as well. So these are the items that we're looking for some council direction to identify funding priorities through with measures EZ. So we have things from library programs that went away through federal funding decisions, and then some other grant funding decisions with the volunteer match, with the Friends Foundation, different foundations needing or bringing into the city those events for like the Preservation Foundation, where some of the members aren't able to run that organization anymore, and some of the rest on there with the culminating in the community impact team being the largest ask on this sheet, and we'll go into more detail on those as we get to the end of the presentation. So now we're going to hit the other fund types that we have in there. So special revenue funds, generally those are in sound. Those are county measures and generally restricted revenues that we have to use in a very specific manner on streets, parks, any kind of funding that we get that has restrictions on it. Just to highlight again, the biggest piece that you'll see in there is the Fink Biner Park Stormwater Capture Project that represents $18 million of revenues and expenditures. That's why it jumps from 15 to 32. So Capital Projects Fund. Here's a high-level overview of the different project types. As you can see, we are still lower on the facility side, and that's why it's been a topic of conversation recently, but we are larger on the parks and streets side, kind of listening to feedback from the community survey. And moving into the debt service funds, this is primarily just fund type that collects money from other funds to pay for our 2019 taxable pension obligation bonds. The other one was for a capital improvement project that was an energy efficiency project around the city, but we're actually getting pretty close to the end of that project and being able to pay it off. I think it's about $60,000 a year. Now we're going to move into the enterprise funds, which are our water operations and capital fund. So these have been budgeted in line with the November 23 adopted rate study and infrastructure assessment study. These lines, again, same for this forecast, as there is detail on the assumptions in the proposed budget document for each line. As you can see, generally revenues and expenditures increase pretty much in line with each other over the next 5 years. And it accounts for the increases that are for CPI, that may be expected with CPI coming October, because that's when we do the evaluation, October to October. And then the rates change come January. This is the capital. You can see the levels of funding we have. We have been discussing a few different options for issuing the bonds that were discussed as part of the rates study. So looking at rates now, we were in the 4% range. Still, when I last talked with the consultant that we used for the pension obligation bonds, we've also been looking at, well, what's the timing of the projects and when we can get some of these things done. To look at is potentially sourcing funds from the general fund and having a loan there between the general fund and water fund. So different areas being explored to see what's going to be the best scenario for the city to receive the funding and make sure the projects are moving forward. Internal service funds, these are funds that provide services to other city departments. So the first two are within administrative services, workers' comp and liability insurance, and the last two are the technology, so that'll be the IT department, and then vehicles is within public works, and those are all servicing city departments. So now we're going to jump into capital improvement program. We can see the different project types broken down here. Again, a large focus on streets and water and only streets projects in line with what the feedback received from the 2025 community survey. And then in 26-27, you see a very large portion for the stormwater project, because that will be a very large commitment when we get underway for that project. And here are the funding sources for the CIP broken down by fund type. So all of these that start with a 2, just to kind of give some perspective back to the fund types, those are all special revenue funds, meaning they're a restricted fund source and may only be used for these kinds of programs and projects. 301 is our capital projects, and that is funded through the general fund and measures EZ, and then 502 is the water capital projects and funded through excess revenue from the operations side, as well as eventually the grant or the bond funding when we issue the debt there. All right, so I'm going to step back and let the departments speak up. I was close on my section. Más o menos? Okay. So I'll let Moises come up and speak on the city council, city attorney, and city manager's budgets.
Good morning. We'll start off with what we term the legislative section of the budget. It includes 2 specific budget areas for both the city council and the city attorney, so nothing better than to present your own budget for yourself and for your consideration. So just as a kind of an overview of the departmental functions relative to the city council, you are the legislative authority. We are actually exercising your authority as we speak and providing budget and financial oversight of the city. You provide strategic leadership and policy direction in a number of ways, not the least of which is the city's adopted strategic plan. Probably my favorite of your tasks is oversight of the city manager and city attorney. You represent our community at various bodies and agencies at the regional, state, and federal level, as well as communicate and engage regularly with our residents. And then you providing intergovernmental and regional collaboration efforts. You lead those efforts on behalf of the city. The city attorney is the city's legal advisor to you. The city attorney's office does a number of functions, including drafting and reviewing of legal documents for the city council's consideration or staff, help manage our litigation strategy for the array of claims and lawsuits that are filed against the city, also help tremendously in prosecuting code enforcement violations if and when those cases reach that level, help with risk, mitigating our risk and liability, and then providing training and education in support of staff operations and responsibilities. Your budget for the next 2 fiscal years is relatively flat. The city attorney's expenditures there are contracted out. That is what we are obligated to pay the city attorney per the terms of their existing agreement. Just quickly, by way of background, as Kyle kind of alluded, at each of the strategic plan was adopted by the city council earlier this year in March. That was preceded by a 2-day city council retreat in December of 2024. That was followed up by a city staff leadership retreat in February of 2025. At each of those meetings, we met to refine those goals from the prior strategic plan. We considered the progress that we made on a staff and organizational level, and then also identified emerging priorities for our community. So our goal was really to assess our community and organizational context, how we could best be positioned to address the current needs and future needs of our residents. It follows our motto or our approach that what gets funded gets done. So the budget document before you reflects your strategic plan, and all of our departmental budgets on the operational side are intended to reflect that and highlight those priorities. So a summary of the key objectives the City Council has prioritized. One is oversight and progress monitoring. Over the last couple of years, we've gotten into the habit of providing quarterly updates on the progress that we make on the strategic plan. Those will continue. Strategic plan refinement. I mentioned all of the work that all of you have undertaken in collaboration with city staff to ensure that we've got a strategic plan that clearly defines outcomes, actions, and performance indicators as necessary. And as you look through the budget document, all of those sections are highlighted. You will continue providing policy leadership and directing our community engagement on a wide variety of issues that we encounter over the course of the next 2-year cycle. and then focus our areas for engagement and decision-making, whereby you will actively participate in key strategic decisions that, including but not limited to a couple of significant issues on our horizon: employee labor negotiations and compensation, always keeping a mindful eye of how we're expending Measure E and Z funding, and then planning and funding for capital projects throughout our city, as Kyle highlighted quite a bit. The development and implementation of homelessness solutions is something that we've been very much involved in over the course of the last couple of years, and as we kind of transition into the discussing what we're going to do relative to the Dale property, and also the possibility of establishing a transitional shelter somewhere in our community, those will remain key focus areas for us moving forward. On to the city manager's department-wide budget. The city manager provides day-to-day management of the operations of the city, again, with a key focus to ensure that we are meeting and exceeding the city council's objectives, as is determined through the strategic plan and all of the reports and actions that you take over the course of a year. The city manager's budget, again, also continues the trajectory that we've been on over the last couple of years. It reflects expenditures primarily related to the four of us that encompass that department there. The most important of which is our executive assistant, Rose, who makes sure that we're on task regularly at the locations that we're supposed to be at. Yes, yes. It is one person, one position, but provides a lot more assistance to all of us, including the five of you on the dais. So our summary of key objectives over the course of the next 2-year cycle. One, and we're going to start crossing off some of these because we've already hired a qualified housing and economic development manager. She's jumping in, and I'm sure Jeff will highlight the work that she'll be working on in economic development. But our role is to serve as a liaison to support your activities and support the actions that you've already taken, working alongside the chamber to promote economic development activities in our community. Strategic communication and community engagement. This is a never-ending struggle for us to make sure that we're communicating as well as we possibly could across every available medium to ensure that the community, the city's message is being received by the community. Kyle highlighted critical focus of our efforts over the next 2-year cycle being facilities and capital planning. We are trying to be as responsive to what the community prioritizes or sees as areas of additional areas that need additional investment as reflected in our community survey. So we'll be working with the council to develop a funding methodology to address all of those needed improvements, including continuing to have a conversation about evaluating the feasibility of rehabilitating or reconstructing key city facilities throughout our community. Mobility and infrastructure projects, this is a very important area of our capital focus. We are working hand in hand with the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments to bring to completion the People Movement Project. That's our urban trails projects and the First Last Mile projects. And then lastly, a critical element of our operation is making sure that the negotiations with all of our bargaining partners go smoothly, that we meet our employees' goals to the best of our abilities, and then prepare, as we know, for succession planning efforts that we'll need to undertake and build upon the work that's already been done with your department heads. So that concludes my part of the presentation. I will now turn it over to Administrative Services. That would be you, Kyle. Back to you.
That was a long time away.
Yes.
All right, so Administrative Services, so this includes the Finance Department, Human Resources Division, and Risk Management Division. All right, so here are the roles that each department and division undertake each day in the Administrative Services Department. So you can see the very first bullet point is why we're here today, budget. All day, every day, that's what we do. No, and then, a lot of the time has been spent in risk management, as didn't mention earlier, but one of the areas too that we strive to address in our general fund multi-year forecast is insurance costs, because those have been going up. But the risk management division under Marie's guidance has been taking actions to see what we can do to mitigate those rises, whether it be moving into a different insurance pool, relying on our own self-insured amount, raising our, what, I guess personally we relate to as our deductible, but, raising our self-insured retention amount to see what we could do to mitigate the rise in premiums. Human Resources has been, takes care of all the hiring, recruitment, working with the departments to run those functions. Mentioned previously, oversees the workers' comp piece of the internal service fund, and employee benefits administration and different development opportunities, employee training, which is a lot of feedback that we got too from at the city managers' lunches was what are the opportunities for employee development through different trainings that the city provides. So as you can see here, our budget stays about the same from 25 to 26. The biggest change here is we're adding half a position. It used to be a full-time position a couple of budgets back for a part-time risk management administrator. So there's a part-time individual that has been taking care of a lot of the day-to-day operations, addressing our claims, and making sure that the city's moving forward in the best capacity possible and working with AdminSure and resolving those claims where we can. So our key objectives and strategic planning items is to finalize implementation of the ERP system components. As we speak today, we are working on going live on the new utility billing system. That's what a lot of the people in the finance bullpen are working on right now, making sure that by the end of today, and they're diligent working to set the payment portals up. So everybody that's come in and has been really concerned about being able to pay their bill, usually because they want to make sure it's paid on time, will be able to do so. But we've since we have taken that under consideration, and if there was any, if they happen to be past their payment due date, that there wouldn't incur any penalties because it's us that's managing the new system, and not the faults of the customer. So Open Finance Go Live, which is will be another way to view the budget information during the year, as well, and the Financial Transparency website and the Capital Project Explorer, which will continue to evolve the GIS efforts that have been underway in IT and providing more information along with dollars to capital project GIS information. HR has been going through the personnel rules and regulations, so we'll bring that back to the bargaining units and city council for final adoption, and continue to look at service delivery and employee compensation packages with the ongoing and upcoming labor negotiations, and even take a look at what does it mean for our hours of operation. And then formalize the human resources life cycle, update and develop an employee handbook, and establish a more formal, consistent from department to department employee onboarding for those things that are consistent between departments. And as I guess it's been discussed, succession planning. We had, I think it was the 4 J's at one point: June, John, Jeff, and Janet. I didn't make the cut because my last name was Jay. I think that was the only criteria, first name Jay. But other than that, we have a lot of different higher level staff that are close or eligible for retirement. We have to look at what are the next steps for our city to make sure that we keep our operations up and providing the services that the residents have come to expect. And now I'll step back once again for the city clerk.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you tonight and provide a briefing on the city clerk's office. The city clerk's office is a dynamic and multifaceted team that plays a vital role in supporting the foundation of our city government. Through transparency, accountability, and public service, we serve to ensure that the city operations remain open, available to the public, accessible, and effectively communicated. Our department provides essential municipal services that the city council, the departments, the public and businesses in the community rely on for their everyday services. We serve as the official source for legislative history and operational information, and we act to improve the trusted link between the city and its residents. Our work spans two main areas. These service areas are legislative and administrative services and communications and engagement, community engagement. On the legislative side, we address areas such as legislative and meeting administration, records management, meeting and elections, municipal elections, and then governance and compliance. On the second area is communication side. We are equally committed to fostering a well-informed and engaged community through communications and public engagement, public information and media, marketing and branding standards, and through new services we offer such as passport services. From a financial perspective, we manage our expenditures by division, carefully aligning the resources of the department priorities to ensure effective, sustainable operations, whether we're supporting elections, preserving records, or engaging the public. We remain focused on delivering valued operational integrity and accountability at all levels. From an election standpoint, as we've seen over the last couple of years, the election process has greatly changed from standalone elections to required consolidated, which have deeply increased the costs associated with our city elections, especially when they come to special or unscheduled elections. So this is a concern that we look at and evaluate with the city manager's office each budget year to ensure that we are appropriately planning for these steps as we move forward, as most of these costs are not regulated by the city, and we really don't have any control over the amounts that come in. From a staffing standpoint, these services that we offer and provide are provided by a committed team of 7 full-time authorized positions. Each position brings valuable expertise in legislative operations, communications, technology, and service delivery. At present, we have 1 vacancy, a senior office assistant, which is actively in recruitment. It is also important to note that while the positions on the budget are listed at the highest step or position area, these positions can be underfilled depending on a candidate's experience or qualifications. To provide a brief summary of the strategic priorities that have been set by the City Council's strategic objectives, our area of focus is centering around modernization, accessibility, and community trust. Some of the main components are going to be to the development and creation of a communication strategic plan and building trusting relationships throughout the community. Kyle briefly mentioned that the city has partnered with JPW Communications to conduct a citywide communications audit. Their recommendations will help shape how we engage with the public through the implementation of many supplemental services that have not yet been incorporated into the proposed budget that is before you. The next area is to increase digital access to information. This will allow the public and other city departments to centrally access city records and hopefully make that process a lot easier and more accessible and at their time frame. So hopefully that we'll be able to get to a point where they can have access to city documents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if they want them. The third area is to strengthen our outreach and engagement by creating more inclusive, accessible opportunities for residents to participate in civic life. And fourth is to continue the transition to digital government services to improve our responsiveness and overall customer service. In summary, the City Clerk's office is more than a behind-the-scenes support office. We are a strategic partner in governance, a guardian of public records, a facilitator of civic engagement, and the bridge between City Hall and the community. Thank you for your time and your continued support of our work. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. If there are none at this time, I'd like to introduce Sam Robbins, the IT Director.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. So the IT department provides a comprehensive IT support for the city, including infrastructure, maintenance, technical assistance, cybersecurity, GIS development, and the implementation of new technologies to enhance services and operational efficiency. You can see from the second slide that our budget stays pretty much the same, with the years 26 and 27 due to infrastructure consolidation and a reduction in software implementation costs. We expect to decrease to a little under 3.5 million. We have 4 full-time positions, which include myself, an administrative assistant, and 2 project managers. The 2 project managers facilitate all the GIS infrastructure and also a lot of our ERP systems. Summary of our key objectives is to deliver more city services using technology, as mentioned with Kathleen and Kyle. Develop a framework for data utilization for decision-making for smart cities. This could include kiosks and digital signage throughout the city, along with Wi-Fi. Increase the number of GIS layers and applications for every single department that we have, most importantly with Public Works and Water, so they have the ability to traverse the city and make changes on the fly. And then continued implementation of software suite for financials, human resources, permitting system, and asset management. And with that, I hand it over to Chief Randazzo.
Good morning. Thank you. For the sake of time, I'm going to keep it brief on these slides, which are kind of haven't changed much. And I'll try to focus some time on what you heard from Mr. Johnson this morning and over again, community impact team. So police department functions, as I know all of you are very familiar with, our administration, patrol, dispatch, investigations, traffic, and our present community impact team and present community relations team as it stands, and I'll get into what the vision in the future will be. Our records bureau processes all our police records, jail, and community preservation, which I know everybody's very familiar with. Here's the magical numbers by Kyle and Julie for you. And once again, I'll get into the changes in staffing in the police department and the vision, the background, where we are today, and the vision for the future. We are looking at conducting a team building workshop for our police department staff. It's been 8 years since we've done one, and we had a lot of changes and planning for succession and what we're going to do in the future. We've applied through Post for a team building workshop, so we're hoping to accomplish that in the fall of this year. Investigations mostly stays the same, but our community impact team is presently pulling from them, along with relations, which we're looking to reorganize for the future. Patrol, the backbone of our police department, obviously handles everything on every level that comes in 24/7, 365. Dispatch, we are looking to, we will go to Next Gen 911 and make upgrades into our dispatch system as technology changes, just to keep with the times. And community preservation, still streamlining the process and adding to the services they provide. So here's the thing that seems to be getting a lot of attention and probably something that needs the most explanation. Our current community impact team is basically 2 officers. Their assignment is to handle every special problem and all the community engagement that comes up in the city and our community. With the future is a community impact team that's robust, and there's a lot more components to it. If you hear the term Fusion Center, Real-Time Crime Center, all the planning that's going on with the Olympics, the World Cup, and all the special things that happen in communities, you'll see some cities and some organizations are ahead of us and some are behind. But LA County Sheriff's Department is trying to get their real-time crime center up before 2028, before the Olympics. Some other cities like Glendale, Alhambra are incorporating them now and moving forward very quickly. So what is a real-time crime center, a fusion center, as it relates to a community impact team in Glendora? We have detectives in our investigation division, we have dispatchers, we have officers in the field, and we are leveraging technology, flock cameras, all the vast internet searches which are publicly available and privately to investigate crimes and provide the best service. We're also incorporating private cameras, our flock cameras, drone footage, and what does it look like in the future is a real-time crime center that augments our patrol staff, our detective bureau staff, who's investigating incidents as they happen and providing that information to our staff to provide better service. Something that is example that just happened in another city is a crime happens, a violent crime happens, a drone is overhead, a police helicopter is overhead. The Real-Time Crime Center has access to those camera feeds plus camera feeds that are city camera feeds, public works camera feeds. They're watching all that information, following suspects, at the same time identifying them by doing internet searches and pushing all that information out to officers in the field who are able to find the suspect, make an arrest, and have a viable case. For us, it looks kind of like a 5-year plan, a vision to have 6 sworn officers, 2 civilian staff, and a supervisor that run the Real-Time Crime Center and also respond to every community need. Examples would be the opening of a Gold Line station in your community, all of our unhoused populace problems, what you saw with the recent increase in residential burglaries in the Morgan Ranch area, the Hidden Springs, the community engagement. They would be responsible for all that and any other community problems that came up. It's something that we're doing right now, but we're doing it on several different fronts with patrol, with investigations, and it's something that needs to be its own division so we can better respond to the city. The limiting factors are obviously resources and funding. I would like to give a shout out to Marie and everybody in finance and HR. Currently, we only have 3 police officer vacancies in the police department, but that's not the true story of it. And we only have 3 vacancies because of all the great work inside the police department, especially with our administrative division, HR, and finance. But our 3 vacancies on paper are compounded by 7 police officers that are either in field training or the police academy, and 4 additional officers that are out on some type of. We have a lot of new babies in the police department, so there's some medical things, there's some personal leaves. So we have a total of 14 police officers who are employed as police officers but are not working as police officers at this time. So as that resource comes back, balanced with hopefully some funding consideration, we can work towards the goal of having a full-time community impact team with a real-time crime center and a great resource for our community. And with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Kugel for our community development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll talk a little bit about the Community Development Department and the budget. The Community Development Department provides services for long-range planning and development and growth of the community, as well as processing current planning permits for development of both commercial and residential development going on in the city. So that development service function includes the planning, overseeing the zoning code and general plan, Building and Safety, which oversees the issuance of building permits and inspections of construction, and then the Engineering Land Development Division, which is one position which oversees the development review of projects for things like grading, utility provision, stormwater runoff and retention, as well as permitting for that. And then lastly, Housing and Economic Development, which is a special function of the department, economic development being that part which promotes the development of the business and retention of businesses in the community, and then Affordable Housing and Community Development Block Grant, which focuses on lower income individuals in the array of affordable housing units that exist in the city, as well as focusing on areas where greater than half of the residents qualify as low income in the community, and providing through the CDBG program upgrades to the infrastructure primarily. So these are the expenditures by provision. Want to note just kind of one error on this. So you see planning administration occurring twice, once on the top and once on the bottom. So that's the second one is not, it's not correct. The grand total is still the same if you take that out. The planning administration, each of the divisions are pretty flat over the next couple of years. Planning administration, it doesn't just include the planning division. It also includes functions related to the administration of the entire department, such as my position, the administrative assistant position. It also covers the cost for the engineering portion of the land development. That position is covered through planning administration. So it's really should be community development administration, but it says planning administration, which can be a little confusing. But and then there's building, economic development, CDBG. I'll just highlight major, so you'll see planning administration, there's about $1 million difference between the 25-26 year budget and the 26-27 year budget, and that's because we're budgeting $1 million for a one-time amount to budget for the major or comprehensive update to the city's general plan. And so that comes out of a special fee that's charged against all building permits. So if we accumulate money, it's called the general plan maintenance fee, and that will cover that cost. And so it's just one, we're hoping to go out to an RFP this year to hire a consultant to update the general plan, and that cost doesn't occur again in 27. In the building division, the major cost is a $350,000 or so contract with CSG, which is our plan review consultant. Over time is, number one, it's difficult to hire and retain people that are qualified to do the work, as well as, so the complexity of the work is increasing. The volume of work is increasing. It's becoming more complex to simply just manage the permits that come in and out in plan reviews. So most of the permits, virtually all of the plan checking that goes on is actually contracted out. So the largest line item under the building division relates to that. Most of these other costs relate to staffing. I'll add that CDBG General Administration, that is not the capital part of the budget. That's simply the percentage of the grant which can be used to cover personnel costs, as well as some contract services costs for services like fair housing that the city provides. If you have any questions afterwards, I can answer some of those. In terms of authorized positions in the city, there were some changes within the structure of the department in this budget cycle. The transportation division has moved out of community development, a portion of it, the service delivery portion of that, along with the positions that were eliminated. A portion of it goes to the Recreation and Human Services Department, which will be doing the dial-a-ride and managing the shuttle services that the transportation division provided. And then the portion that has to do with fleet management and purchasing will go to the Public Works Department. There might be also additional changes. There will be a new position in the building division, the assistant building official. We're eliminating the plans examiner position in there, and there will also be an assistant director position that will be added to the department as well. There might be some minor changes to also, I kind of noticed one thing else, I'm working with finance on the array of positions in the planning division that maybe will be corrected by the time we present the final budget later this month. Major strategic goals of the division, of course, the Economic Development Action Plan is near the top of that list. where the council allocated $1 million for us to implement special economic development programs to do, among other things, retain businesses within the community and also work to attract the kinds of businesses that and services that the community requires, such as restaurants and other retailers that are desired by the community. So we're working on those programs. Affordable housing, that has become a larger portion of our function with the acquisition of the Dale site, so we're doing an affordable housing development there. We're also seeing more developers take advantage of density bonuses through the provision of moderate and low-income housing, which we're also working on several projects where there'll be affordable units in those developments along Route 66 and Arrow Highway and some other places. Station Area Vision Plan, which we're also working on, objective design guidelines, which is a comprehensive set of design guidelines for new development in the community. I already mentioned the general plan update. A brand new permitting and land management system, which we are intending to go live in July. That is basically will increase hopefully the level of service that we're able to provide to the building community, whether you're a homeowner doing an addition, an ADU, or you're a big developer building a multifamily housing development. To improve our ability to manage and track the plans through the process. And lastly, which was an item under the strategic plan last year, were the annexation of the 5 unincorporated islands within the community that we've got a contract with RSG as a consultant to start that process later this year as well. So some of the major, I mentioned already some of the major contracts that we utilize on the private side to help support primarily the building and construction permitting services. As I mentioned, a lot of what we do internally, especially on building, is managing plans and tracking them through the process, where we rely on outside expertise to do a lot of the plan checking, as well as some of the engineering services as well that we utilize. Mentioned some of the major projects already, and I kind of went over some of the personnel changes that are going to be happening in the department going over the 26 and 27 fiscal years. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'll turn it over to Public Works Director Bill Witkoff.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, Mayor and Council. So I appreciate the time this morning to talk about one of my favorite things, which is Public Works. So we have an awful lot going on and something I'm very proud of. So our department functions. I was kind of thinking about, while I was sitting there, my elevator speech for what we do in Public Works. And it's really amazing when you sit and think about the things that we touch on a daily basis, whether that means design of a project, construction of a project, administering that, our engineering functions, maintaining all of our facilities, our signals, our parks, all things that are green, our trees, everything else. We touch quite a bit. So within the department, we could be designing a multi-million-dollar project, or we could be repairing a toilet, and depending on where you are in your day, those things could be equally urgent and important. So it's kind of fun to see what we touch. We also have the whole water side, which we take a look at, of course, with the administration, conservation. There's a few things on the list I want to talk about. One are environmental services. We've recently filled a position there that's been vacant for a bit, so we're seeing some great improvements there and the services that we're providing to the community, whether that be stuff that we did at Earth Day or our HHW events, as well as kind of being in compliance with some of our businesses. You'll also notice that we have the parks and landscape maintenance, or what we want to talk about is kind of all things green. That also includes the trees, but I wanted to pull that out separately just to point out the fact that we are going through a comprehensive review of our urban forestry manual and hope to have that to you towards the end of the year. From a water perspective, obviously we have admin, conservation, our customer service, and of course production and distribution, but wanted to talk about conservation for just a minute. That's going to become, I think, a larger focus for us over the years as we work to kind of meet some of the new urban water use objectives, as well as trying to make conservation a way of life. So we are in the process of trying to hire a second person in conservation, something we're very excited about. Again, I think that is a huge need for the department. So taking a look at our budget, there's a couple of things when we went into it this year, especially because this is my first shot at going through a 2-year cycle with the city here, was we really wanted to kind of do a hold-the-line budget. So you notice there's not a lot of increase between the 26 and 27 budget. That's primarily just CPI, some of our material costs, and increase in some of our service costs. So again, we tried to do the best we could to hold the line, but we also took some time internally to really kind of break down that budget, where our expenditures are, how we're using that money, and where that money is being used. So I want to just take a second and say thank you to Kyle and his team for the help, but also specifically within Public Works, Paul Fisher, our business services manager, who put in a lot of late nights and long weekends pulling the budget together. Unfortunately, he's not here today. I think the stress was a little much, so he took a few days vacation to go to the beach. Some of the key objectives: conducting a wayfinding assessment is one of the things we're working on. Also, traffic signal modernization. We heard loud and clear from the community that traffic signals are a pinch point for them as they drive across the community, so we're working on that. We've applied for a number of grants, and some of those have been successful, and are implementing those. HSIP, we're looking at some Safe Streets for All grants, as well as using some of our contract money for improvements. We have a lot of improvements that are planned on 66, a number that are also planned down on Grand. We have a couple other areas that we're working on, so on Gladstone. So just want to make sure you heard that we're working on that. As far as the grind and overlay and slurry seal, the annual program, we'll have our pavement management plan back soon. That's underway now. So again, one of those foundational documents that will help us with that. Working through the sidewalks. And then we've talked about this multiple times. We are going to point out again that we're working on the Glendora Avenue Water and Street improvement. That's in design now. That's going to be a significant project, probably one of the larger projects we've taken on in a long time from a city perspective, as we replace that water main from 66 all the way down to Gladstone, as well as new traffic signals, sidewalk improvements, and then repaving that whole area. And you can see we also have two other, Colorado, the water and street improvements, and Cypress, so two areas that we're working on. And then just some item notes I wanted to talk about. Our water infrastructure, we have that 5-year master plan. We are working on that. We've got a dedicated team. We brought on some new consultants, and just recently filled our assistant director of water, so that's helping us take on some of those infrastructure projects. And you'll see right below that, street repairs. We wanted to make sure we put those together and just pointed out that we are leveraging those two projects together. As we do those water projects, we can use those, we can partner them and get the streets redone as well, for a couple of reasons. One, we're able to get a lot more done from a street maintenance perspective when we do that. And two, one of the last things we want to do is come in and pave a street and then tear it back up shortly after that, because that's one of those things that seems to really aggravate, and it just makes it look like we're not planning what we're doing. So just want to point out we're working on those. Again, the traffic signal modernization, that's probably going to be a huge focus for the next 3 to 5 years as we continue to update our traffic signal inventory. We have a lot of cabinets that are from the late 90s in technology, and anybody that knows that has a laptop or a computer from the 90s that's not doing so well. It's kind of the same with a lot of our traffic cabinets. They can't even handle the new technology to help with traffic flow, so we're trying to get those updated. And then the assessments, we talked about a little bit about the wayfinding, really looking at some of the new gateway signage for the city, so when you're coming into the city, you're here. And also talking about some of the wayfinding that's within it. So if we're going to make Glendora a destination, if there's things that we think are important, we're doing an assessment to find out what those are and how we get some signs out there for people that are not Glendorans who are coming into town, so they can find the way to the parks or whatever it is that they're looking for, the village, whatever that might be. Also, we're working on our ADA transition plan. That's going to be probably a 2 to 3 year process as we look at that. We do have our pavement management plan I talked about. We're working through our traffic count and speed survey. So a lot of these are foundational documents that will help us over the next 5 years, especially as we look at capital projects and other things that we're doing. So excited about everything that's happening in Public Works, excited about what's coming up for us, and that concludes what I have as far as my presentation. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Janet and the library. Thank you.
Good morning. I had to bring one, especially for you. The library, of course, is about containers of ideas, paper and otherwise. The library is also about ideas that are not contained, except being contained in human experience, being contained in imagination, and being contained in interaction. So we make sure at the library that the world of ideas is nearby, lifelong, accessible, organized, enduring, contextual, valued, and sustainable. And there are lots of ways that we do that. We do it through programming, not just in the building, but out in the community, instruction and assistance, of course, the public content, electronic or paper or otherwise. We coordinate community volunteering opportunities. We host community event, provide facility support, provide community partnership development. We manage over 20,000 customer accounts. We develop our relationship with our wonderful Friends Foundation. And of course, administration just clears the road for the really excellent staff that handles all of that. So what you see when you look at our numbers, of course, you see growing expenses for personnel, for inflation, for other citywide costs that you've heard about. What you also see here are our commitments to leadership development and training and education. There are several initiatives there. The largest is that the California Library Association Conference will be here in Southern California again, and we have memberships and conference attendance for the entire staff proposed. Also, we also are making a real effort towards our public relations and marketing, and we are fortunate to be working with JPW as well on that. Some of the other impacts I'll be talking about on a later slide. So authorized positions, we've been doing this with a pretty steady batch of FTE for several years. I would like to mention that behind this chart, there is one vacancy, the funding of which is being used to help offset those costs for the PR work that we're doing with JPW. Okay, some of the things that we are looking forward to in the next couple of years. First of all, those citywide initiatives regarding the homeless services ecosystem, communication planning, staff compensation, orientation, and succession planning, of course, we'll be helping out with that, both generally and in the specific ways that the library can with research and that sort of support. In terms of accessible and enhanced city services, we do have a state mandate to provide library card access to youth, and we will be working and already are working with the schools on that. We are going to be freeing up some of our staff to be focused on interacting with the public and gaining local expertise by having some of our materials pre-processed, and we are going to be building that community archive and online access to Glendora-specific information that's been launched recently. We're giving back to the community by growing that access to volunteer opportunities throughout Glendora and the region through Volunteer Match, already launched and being developed, getting richer and richer every day. And of course, we'll be contributing to the new or revitalized Civic Center efforts, whether new or remodeled, the impacts of that. So by helping with the facility and space assessments, plans for service delivery, and of course by helping to liaise with the Friends Foundation as funding methodologies are worked out. Okay, a few items of note. Shown in the budget and its numbers are our continuing emphasis, as I've already mentioned, on leadership development and communications and public relations. So some things that are sort of awaiting clarification. One are the trickle-down effects of federal cuts and state funding. And there have been a combination of services and resources that we have been offering that are having their funding withdrawn. It's federal, state, there are various ways that funding gets to us. And we have identified some of those resources that we would recommend continuing and some that we think we can drop away. I wanted to mention that the eBooks for All initiative that's called out in the documents actually it's one of the ones that's getting the most publicity from the state, but it's actually one of the ones that we feel we can set aside. And the other ones that you have seen the $15,000 number for are actually for K through 12 resources and the New York Times. So we've been selective about what we've been coming to the city to ask for help with, given those trickle-down effects that you're seeing. Also, we don't know yet the economy's impact on the Friends Foundation. They have scheduled at 1 o'clock today our meeting with them to talk about our grant applications. So we still have to learn about all of that. And the figures that you've been provided with are placeholders depending on what conditions they're facing and what they'll be able to agree to for the coming fiscal year. Still needed, I just want to put a pitch out for this, not only for the library, but for the city as a whole. I think moving forward in the next couple of years, there's a real need for statistically significant community feedback that is quick and topical. And so the more ways we can invest in to provide those kinds of dialogues with the community where it's not only narrative information, but we can have some methodological data about it. I would highly encourage that, just not just for the library, for the city as a whole. And finally, of course, the biggest ticket is the library building and headquarters. We may be coming to the council and also to the Friends Foundation, both mid-year and or mid-cycle, for some things that will help enrich services as we make those transitions. There's going to be, of course, a lot of talk about not just the library building, but other facilities. But with regard to the library building in particular, I just want to thank you for your understanding because, yes, ideas need containers, but they also need human spaces and public spaces, whether that's for people alone or in groups, whether it's casual or formal. And they need a home for the experts to help develop those physical, interpersonal, and online worlds. So thank you for your understanding of that as we move forward. And I'm obviously happy to answer questions at any point. And with that, I'm turning you over to the last of the J's for the morning, John Aguirre from Recreation and Human Services. Thank you.
The last department. So, thank you, Mayor and City Council. The Recreation and Human Services, we focus on recreation, community programs, relationships, and homelessness. Some of our major department functions are the outreach to individuals experiencing homelessness, provide for the senior population, community engagement, youth sports and school district liaison, grant applications, recreation classes and special events, dial-a-ride, and community shuttle services. Our expenditures, we have one large increase, mainly because we are getting public transportation. So we're increasing about $1.5 million for that, for our total budget about over $5.5 million. Our authorized positions, as you see, it's been revised. We had some name changes in that. We do have 12 full-time employees, and we are one that we've heavily used for our part-time, which we have 18.80 full-time equivalents. So it gives us right under 31 full-time equivalent positions. Our summary for key objectives is to develop the South Hills Wilderness Area. We are working on developing the South Hills Park. We're focusing on a regional attraction for passive and outdoor and active outdoor recreation with a bike park. The South Hills Bike Park project, which includes multiple pump tracks for different skill levels, jump lines, new trailheads, new cross-country trails throughout the South Hills Wilderness area. Currently, we're working with our consultant team to finish the CEQA process and to determine the environmental impacts to this area. The project will experience the cost about $2 million and hopefully will start in early 2026. Our next one is the completion of the ecosystem to support the homeless population and improve access. The main focus of our homeless is to assist vulnerable unhoused community members with multiple and complex needs. Outreach services are designed to assist people experiencing homelessness, such as crisis housing through motel vouchers and other local resources, housing placement through the coordinated entry service, counseling, case management, and peer support to break the cycle of homelessness, treatment for alcohol, drug, mental health, and trauma disorder, and life skills education to support independent living. And then our Parks Master Plan. We will be going out to bid early in July or August for a consultant to update the Parks Master Plan since it has not been updated since 2011. Items of note. We are looking to hire a part-time rec specialist as a dance instructors. As all of you that have been around, we had one wonderful lady that used to teach for us, Miss Paula. And since 2017, since she retired, we've gone through 3 different contracts with different dance organizations, and we believe we can do it better if we did it in-house. And so we will be looking for that to put it under our roof. As Jeff mentioned, the Transportation Division, we had some movement there, and we are taking over the day-to-day operations, which include management of the Dial-A-Ride service and shuttle service, Dial-A-Ride applications, tap card applications, tap card sales, and implementing of the short-range transit plan. And then our CIP projects, as we talked about the South Hills already. Shade structure at Gladstone Park. We're going to mimic the one at Finkbeiner Park and put one down at Gladstone Park. The Legion Building restroom remodel. This project will include new partitions, sinks, toilets, and tile work to upgrade that facility. And then Scout Hut. The Scout Hut was built in 1990 by the Rotary Club, and it's heavily used in the last 35 years, and that one will be also include new kitchen cabinets, countertops, and sinks. And the last one, the Parks Master Plan we talked about, will be going out to bid in the next month or two. And that concludes my report. I'll turn it back to Kyle.
All right, so the next steps on this process will be to next Tuesday to do the budget adoption, but before we get there, we'll have some conversation on the different Measures EZ items that were discussed throughout the department presentations. So I can get feedback here and the departments can get feedback here, so we have what the final budget will look like for adoption on next Tuesday. And as we've heard over the last about hour, well, I guess hour after I started talking, it really is a whole city process. It takes more than the hour and a half that we've been here going through this. It's about a 7-month process to get to this point on the 2-year budget. And if I didn't get all the valuable input from my colleagues and their wonderful staff, I would not be able to present the budget to you as it looks today. So I really can't express enough gratitude for everybody and how they all work together and provide feedback and keep me honest to make sure the things that they've requested and are passionate about are in the budget document. Because sometimes with finance, it's about numbers and cents, and it's always great to get all the perspective from all the department heads and all the services that we provide in the community. So these are the recommendations. We've essentially addressed recommendation number 1 to conduct the presentation and discussion. So the next 2 items, we're looking for staff is looking for direction on how to utilize Measure EZ funding on certain department recommendations and requests, as well as direction on providing an additional investment in the Glendora Unified School District pool improvement project, in the amount of $900,000. So this is the slide that had popped up at the beginning. These are some of the items we're looking for direction on from the City Council. As Janet mentioned on the first one, the state library and e-library programs, while the eBooks for All initiative is mentioned there, The more specific request for that $15,000, as Janet mentioned, is for K through 12 resources and continuing access to the New York Times. The volunteer match services. So this is one that is currently funded through a Potential Friends Foundation grant. So this is taking on, I think, the second half of the Friends Foundation costs, or the volunteer match services cost, to provide that service, and then providing e-library and print content for the public, different resources there. What those two numbers essentially represent in the different conversations we've had with the Friends Foundation is they're looking to cut their contribution to around from 3 digits to 2 digits, which at the very highest level, 3 digits about cuts it in half for what we've been historically receiving. Briefly discuss the Pumpkin Festival. If there are any specific questions on that, I'll request Recreation and Human Services to provide a little bit more information, but there's also the brief blurb there as well. Kathleen mentioned the JPW contract. That's supplemental services to the communication audit based on what's identified in the communications audit, split over the next 2 years. Additional affordable housing consulting services, just based on the continued need for affordable housing and programs in the city and region. This is what the city community development department has identified as potential additional services that might be needed to address those programs. And last but not least, community impact team, and looking at bringing that into modern policing. So it's a phased approach, but not a piecemeal request. We're looking at the request as a whole. It just happens to be phased over the next 3 years. So in 26, that includes, the budget does currently include the request for the crime analyst, which is $103,000, and the one office assistant. The office assistant itself is budget neutral. It's a reclassification of a vacant community services officer position. And the crime analyst, the fully burdened cost, so salary and benefits, is the $103,000, but it will be partially offset by a reduction in contract services to the tune of about $20,000. The second year is an officer, and then which is fiscal year 27, and then the fiscal year 28 is an officer and a sergeant. And the reason for the phased approach is, as the chief mentioned, while we only reflect 3 vacancies in the police department, the community impact team is a special assignment, so we'll take some time for officers to get that experience to be eligible for the special assignment, to be able to be assigned to the community impact team, in addition to those officers that are already a part of the community impact team. In total, you can see here, we're looking at about $800,000 for measures E and Z, for what are all ongoing costs. The affordable housing consultant, I could see fluctuating up and down based on need, but generally the rest would be fairly consistent year over year, and same with maybe JPW. I'll spare you all going back to the Measure E forecast, but it projects about, I think in year one, $1.8 million available to identify funding priorities, and then hovers around about $1.5 million or just under for the next 5 years as you consider these requests for the funding. And related but separate, and we can go back just to kind of give the full picture, and then we can address them one at a time, is the pool investment. So the request here is not to put it in as a formal budget item, but to rather fund it out of essentially a general fund surplus. So any revenues as revenues exceed expenditures, and that we have maybe not spent every dollar that we've planned to spend in the budget, as it sometimes is the case, or most of the time is the case, just based on needs and priorities. Looking at spreading that funding over a 2-year period of $450,000 from the current year, so fiscal year 25, and then the first year in the budget of fiscal year 26. And if a total of $900,000 is not available in those 2 years, requesting the opportunity to extend it the third year to the 26, 27, or the second year of the 2-year budget to complete the $900,000 in funding. The table there is a scenario of how it could look. If we have $450 in 2 years, we split it evenly and we make the investment. If we don't quite have it and we have $300,000 each year, then we would split it that way. But those are examples and not exactly, no decision needed on exactly which to fund it, but just the overall program itself, or idea itself of phasing it in over 2 to 3 years. Option 2, although option 1 is recommended, would be to put it in a capital improvement plan, but then that would take from other funding priorities at this time. So that's why the recommended option is to pay for it out of general fund surplus. So if revenues exceed expenditures at the end of the current fiscal year 25, and then the 2 fiscal years within this proposed budget. So I'll go back a slide so we can start with measures easy, funding priorities, and any discussion or questions. And I guess anything the city manager would like to add.
Sure. No, only that all the departments are here. Obviously, if you have questions on any part of the presentation or operations that they explained and how funding applies to the strategic plan, please feel free to ask those questions and staff will come up and answer those. So thank you very much, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle, and it's nice to know you've got a great collective team of amazing talent to make you look good. It only takes 7 months to do that.
Yeah, that's true. Hair and
Good job.
makeup, 7 months.
Well, thank you very much. I know we have some questions and observations, so I guess we can start with one of us, and maybe it'll end up with a roundtable back and forth a bit, but whoever feels best available to answer that question, I guess, please come up and do so. Sounds like a little bit of a rocking chair, but we'll have to try that out.
Yes.
Okay? So with that, who'd like to go first? Karen?
Hi, Kyle. Thank you so much for all of that information and for moving it along at a good pace. Thank you. If I remember correctly, when our friends from the school district were here and we were discussing the pool, we presented to them the option of paying it over several years. And if I remember correctly, they were okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so, okay, good. So then your option 1 sounds fabulous. And on the Measure EZ funding priorities, I know one of the things that the community often says is, oh, we don't want that money going to raises. And so I can appreciate their concern for that. And I think that what staff has presented here and asked for are the very things that the community often looks for, is those things that impact the quality of life. And each of these do that in a variety of ways. And so these are things that they could see, experience, and benefit their lives in making Glendora have a high quality of life. So I think that these requests all fit within those expectations that the community has. So thank you. Good job to everybody out there filling in the blanks.
Thank you, Karen. Mendel?
Kyle and to the entire team, you guys have done an awesome job. It's reflected in not only the awards that you've gotten, but just the excellent work. And thank you. It's not an easy job, especially with a lot of the moving parts being moved. And thank you. It's good to know that we're strong financially, and that we're able to do the right things for all of the people. There's cities that, or there's a city that's close to us that doesn't have the luxury of having such a great team. And you guys are really, really tops. And so thank you for that. And to Janet and John, this is your last circus of the budget, which I'm sure you're going to go out and celebrate at lunch. Okay, this is the last budget we've had to build, and I just want to say a personal thanks to both of you. I've known both of you for a long time, and we've shared a lot of laughs together, a lot of good things. But thank you for the leadership that both of you have continued to give, and I know that you will finish strong. It's the kind of people that you are. And And so thank you for really the good job that you guys are, doing. And really the legacy that both of you are going to leave. You can really be happy about that, proud of that, and many lives have been changed because of what you guys have done. And so thank you for that. On the Measure E and Z, I'm in favor of doing all of these things. I would like to ask, because I don't understand it, on the very top one, the New York Times. What is that costing us, and why is that a subject of we might get it, we might not?
I think Janet can provide a little more detail into sort of
whoever.
the funding and how things are funded at the state and how it trickles down to local libraries.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a variety of things that the state library helps provide. They aren't grants per se, but through a variety of funding resources that they have, then they provide resources and services for public libraries to opt into. And they are both experiencing some cuts at the federal level, but also experiencing their own budget shortfalls that they are accounting for. So they have been producing lists of the things that they expect to stop funding next fiscal year, or that they said they can't commit to funding.
Okay.
So we suppose it might change, but the New York Times and these K through 12 resources together, we estimated about about $15,000 combined. And those, among the things that they have said they are not committed to, are the things that we would most like to be able to continue.
Yeah.
So does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
no, I just didn't know why that specific paper was the topic of, this, and I'm not a big fan of them. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the papers that are out there, because I think both the right and the left are biased, and I don't know where you can get really good news from, but I just didn't know why that they specifically were. But I'm for it. And I hope that we can accommodate all of these things, and so thank you for answering that.
Thank you.
I really like the fact that there's been a lot of very strategic thinking put into this, from the survey, the conversations that we've had with our staff. I think it's important that the public knows that we are attempting to really respond to what they have said and what they feel. And I applaud what you guys have done here. The survey is really born out here. And so, thank you for, doing that. I want to also say that the investment in your last slide regarding the schools, that's really an important thing. I mean, I've lived here for 40 plus years, and I think most of the people that I've talked to over those years moved here because of the good schools, and it's a safe place. And we need our schools to be good. We need them to be strong. We need them to have the services which we want for our kids. And this is only one little part of that, but it's a big part of that, because I know that during summer, I think we use that pool for our swim events and everything. And so I am very glad that we have the ability to really support them. And embedded in this is, I think we support them to the tune of $300,000 to $400,000 every year with police officers, with crossing guards, with all kinds of different things, with the MOU that we have with them. And I think that investment is really good. And I say investment. It is an expense, but it is an investment in, once again, keeping our schools strong and having a asset that draws people here. And so I'm very much supporting that and in favor of that. And the $900,000 is, a reduction from what we had previously been told that they wanted for the pool. So that's a win-win too. So I'm happy about that. Let me ask you, Kyle, or Adam, or Bill. So last year, we did a major water assessment charge study. We implemented it. I think it did what we thought that it would do, and the public, I think, for the most part, they're good. My question is, are we satisfied that change is going to give us some runway to do the things that we want, so we don't have to come back in a year and say, what we did a couple of years ago was good, but now we found that we're really short. And I know that you guys can't control the price of pipes and asphalt and all of the stuff that goes into it. But from where you guys sit, has that been effective and will give us the type of runway that we need to do some of the water things that we need to do?
I'll speak first, and then Kyle and Bill can chime in. And I know Marie's right here and can hit her mic as well. So, when we did the assessment and there was over 300 plus million, not including the Irwindale project as necessary repairs, we knew that we couldn't even get the high priority projects done in the time frame that they were there. And so a lot of the rate changes were about ensuring that people were paying for what they got for, that certain homes weren't being subsidized, so on and so forth. I think the state's continued change in how we have to use water is going to be a consideration, and quite frankly, rules that we didn't have at the time we were doing the study. So there are some challenges that you mentioned with inflation and potential tariffs on impacts on construction, and a variety of state and federal policies that will impact us moving forward. But that's been the case for a decade in water, quite frankly. So we continue on the right path. I think one of the things that we've not been able to get our arms wrapped around in a meaningful manner yet is, our CIP plan anticipates that we were going to issue debt to get some of the projects done. The financial and bond markets, as we've all seen the headlines, have just not been great, and so we haven't been able to meet some of those projections. They've changed so much so that it was, beyond all the projections we've seen. So there raises some concern there on how we're going to move forward with whether we come back with another financing, source to do that. And I believe it's about 15 million, Kyle, in projects that are anticipated. So, for as much as the cost study and anticipated cost did the right analysis and the right thing, there are some things that we're going to have to navigate in the out years. But Kyle can look. It's also why in your packet you have the 5-year look ahead on the water fund. But Kyle, anything you'd like to add, or Bill, you're free to come up and talk about any of those challenges as well.
No, I was just thinking to the point where the bond funding is $15 million, and I know one of the projects in the second year of the budget is Glendora and Colorado, I think, which is somewhere around the neighborhood of $8 million just in the water fund. Just to put it into perspective, it would be about half. That's about half of the bond issuance, right, on two different projects. But Glendora will be a major project. So, like Adam said, it's $350 million of infrastructure needs, but we we addressed some ongoing, it's just, so the rates are still set up to, as pending cost changes to give us ongoing funding for capital improvements, but nothing in the realm to get $350 million done in the next 3 years or anything like that.
The only thing I would add too is staff has started to look at other ways. We've asked our legislators for water money for the water projects on Glendora Avenue, for example. So we're trying to find ways to supplement what we have to make the investment and the ratepayers' investment go even further. So sort of a evolving process, and we're looking for ways to supplement funding always.
Good. Well, I just think it's an important thing to talk about, because last year was a major water assessment charge shift, which was good, and I supported that. But I just want to make sure that we seem to be tracking there, and you guys are right. The bond rates are not what we want them to be. So hopefully that'll change.
Yeah.
Just maybe a couple more things. So GSU, GUSD, I'm supportive of option one. The E and Z, I'm supportive of all of those things. So just to be clear on that. The survey talked about streets and infrastructure, and thank you for acknowledging that and doing that. I think we can all say that we are hearing that, and that's being done. So, Bill, just good luck with all of the enormous jobs that you've got. It's great to have you and your team here, and so thank you for that. FTEs, great job. I think the public needs to understand that we're not overstaffed. We're staffed sufficiently. Probably, if I had to say, we're staffed a little skinny at times, but we're working smarter. And I give thanks to Adam and the entire team for bringing systems and processes in. And I think the public needs to understand that's really an important thing that we've done, that we've all done. Thank you to the public for passing E and Z. I still feel very, very strongly that these are critical mission-type things that will enable us to do the right things for everybody here. We can spend it in a better way than what the county could ever dream of doing. And so I want to say thank you, and it's shown out by what we are doing. So with that, I support this. Of course, you guys know that I love this kind of stuff. For 40-plus years, a budget was something that I lived and died by, and I looked at everything. I've been engaged with all of you regarding a lot of questions that I've had. Thank you for the honesty and the no fluff kind of responses that you guys have given me, and great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mendel. Bring it over to Shauna.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody's presentations. This is my first budget workshop, and it's been exciting. I appreciate, first of all, and most importantly, the attention that has been paid to community concerns. That was clear to me throughout every single presentation. We are keeping that top of mind, which for me is really important, specifically the concerns about our streets and public safety. So I was very appreciative. I have a couple questions, and they're probably really easy. One of the things I'm trying to get used to in my role is all of the new acronyms. I thought we had a lot of acronyms in real estate, but government is tops even that. So I just wanted to go through and ask a couple questions on some terms. You mentioned ERP.
Enterprise Resource Planning System. So, like you said, a lot of acronyms. In order to get the awards that are in the beginning of the budget, we have to have a whole section of acronyms at the end of the budget. So in the appendix, there's a glossary of terms, there's a summary of acronyms, and a description of all the funds and what they're used for.
Okay.
So as you make your way through the 300-plus page document,
And-
you know,
Well, I'm
you
going
can
to
start at
ask
the end
you.
and then
I
go to
don't
the
want to go
beginning.
there, so I'm going to ask you all the ones that I have.
And just to be abundantly clear, just in case someone's watching and they have the same question, the ERP system is financial, payroll, cashiering. So that is the investment that the council made, several $1 million between that and our permitting system, the same vendor. And so that is all the financial aspect, and will include a work order system in the ERP system when it's done as well.
Okay, good to know.
I guess you could hear us interchange ERP and Tyler, because Tyler is the developer of the backbone of all of those things.
Okay, all right, thank you. Sam, you mentioned in your presentation, white light. You were talking about kiosks, digital signage.
Wi-Fi.
Oh, Wi-Fi? Oh, okay, I didn't hear. I'm like, white light, what is that? Wi-Fi, okay. I know what that
The
is.
train at the end of the tunnel, Sam, yeah.
Okay. Bill, you mentioned HHW events? Did I hear that one right?
Household hazardous waste.
Very good. That's not even a gap. You know it.
All right. See, they're easy. Hang on, I think I had one more. Oh, during John's presentation, tap card sales. So we'll be able to, or the community will be able to purchase their tap cards for the train. Is that correct?
Yeah, we sell it now here.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, we sell them. When we move, it might have another outlet, and we're hoping that the teen center also will sell those.
Well, that's fabulous. Wish I knew that before. That was the extent of my questions. Thank you again. I thoroughly appreciate it. As someone who's new to all of this, this has been fantastic and a wonderful learning experience.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Thank you, Shauna. Michael?
Thank you, David.
He's got 20 pages, but they're small pages.
Just questions outside the slides.
Is mine either.
So what's new?
I'll be kind. You know, I've gone through a number of these things through the years, and they get better and better and better. My hat's off not only to staff for putting this together, because I know it's not, you know, the presentation here today, it's been going on for months. And I know when we first had our first glimpse at this, and Adam kind of presented this, and he had to do some, I guess, some work on it. The numbers were a little higher than they are today. And it takes quite a bit of work to which ones aren't going to get funded and which ones are. And so my hat's off to staff as well as for Adam for having to go through this. I'm sure Moise has had his hand in this as well, and in paring this down to make it work. But again, I'm so appreciative of this as this gets better and better and makes our job up here so much easier for this. And Kyle, you do a great job in presentation, and your presentations are doing good, but no dad jokes today. I don't know why, but maybe next time, maybe next Tuesday. I want to go back to this last slide you have up here right now, just for some clarity, some math here on the priorities for the community impact team. That totals up to about $568,200. But then on a previous slide, for the criminal analysis, the officers and all that's $828,000. I don't understand the math of the priorities. Is this to augment the $828,000, the priority?
So this is it's the total cost of all the total fully burdened cost of all of the positions. So the crime analyst, the office assistant, even though it's a reclass, the two officers and the sergeant.
Right, but that's, the full team is $828,000.
So-
But the three-year total is, I came up with 568,000.
A couple different nuances there. So if I may, so on the presentation, the first year, so those are just the net new costs for the CIT team. It's also important to note that the costs change each year as personnel costs or CalPERS will change to the organization as well. So when finance is adding the note for year 3 there, it's basically year 3 costs for all those positions, which could be a different total as well. I would also add that really year 2, if you look at fiscal year 27 for the community impact team, is really the 180 plus the 103. It's
Yeah.
really 283 of net new costs over today's standard. So there's also some offsetting costs and contracts that would be offset, like Kyle mentioned. So happy to provide when we come back a more clear example of what the all-in costs are each year, and we can provide just a little worksheet. It sounds like everyone's supportive of this, and for the obvious reasons that we talked about, but we can do a little better job here helping explain all that.
Yeah, I'm in support of it, it's just that the numbers didn't add up.
Yeah, totally understand.
So to Mendel's point on the FTEs, it did go up, and I believe it went up mainly in PD.
It actually went down overall.
Yeah,
Down?
down overall. It went from 269 to about 266.
And if the council's supportive of Measure E and Z,
Yeah.
it'll actually go up 2 more. So we'll still be 1 less than we were the current
Yeah.
fiscal year.
My math wasn't off then.
But yes, the overall total in PD would go up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's for the crime analyst, correct?
Yes.
Crime analyst, officer as well.
CalPERS, we haven't really, you touched on that a little bit. It's a 3-year lag for the numbers. Do we know what our long-term liabilities are on that, if we even have any?
We will have some. It'll depend on I'm trying to think what we have. I haven't looked at it recently. I can get back to you on that number. I know I'll have the actuarial valuations that I can pull what we have to pay coming up by the end of July. That's what we usually pay up front, right? So we get the interest savings over the year instead of paying monthly. But I don't have that readily available off the top of my head.
I think one of the challenges is just, as you may recall, we get an actuarial report each year because of PEPRA and because of the variety of plans we have. We get multiple that come in each year, and sometimes they take away some liability, sometimes they add to it. They don't go into effect for 2 years.
Correct.
So there's a lot of, talk about math, there's a lot of math that has to go in there. And as Kyle mentioned, the city's really wisely set aside money for CalPERS obligations as well in the future, as well as we try to do the prepayment to offset the interest as well. So we can get an exact total and share with you offline.
That, or maybe we can add that to next week.
Sure.
I just want to make sure that we're budgeting for what we don't know.
Yes, those projections are included in the 5-year look ahead. So we do anticipate what those CalPERS costs will be in the out years.
Yes.
Okay. And this was touched on just a little bit, the $18 million for the Finkbeiner storm. Do you think that's going to be enough with inflation and everything by the time we go to construction?
I know we're working with the San Gabriel Valley COG, the Council of Governments, and they
I would assume if there's major, and Bill, if you wouldn't mind sort of describing the process for how that funding comes. If there are shortfalls, I imagine we go back to the same process to try to acquire more funding.
Yeah, so the reason that project is pushed out a couple of years is because we are getting about $6 million a year that will be transferred in to cover that. Right now, we believe that is. We do have a portion of that that's our cost. So we're working on that transfer agreement now, but you're right, there are some things with construction that perhaps it could go up. It wouldn't be enough, but we'll know as we get a little bit closer. We know the design's done. We're waiting for those transfers to happen, and then when we get closer to actually bidding that job out, we'll have a little bit better engineer's estimate at that time. But things are kind of up and down right now, so I'd hesitate to say whether it's going to be enough or not enough. We just really don't know what the market's going to do from a construction perspective 2 years out from now. But we should be pretty close.
Well, since you're sitting right there or
Yes.
standing right there, the water towers up on top of Glendora Avenue.
Yes.
We're a little behind on that.
We are.
So by the time we do that, we're going to have enough money allocated for that?
Yes. Yes, so we are making progress with that. We haven't really updated you on that much lately, and that's probably on me. We actually had a meeting out there last week with the Geotech to take a look at Easley Canyon and the transportation to get the equipment in and out and to get those tanks in and out. That was kind of the final process that we needed to get done before we go back to meet with those residents and work on the final, again, the egress access plan for that. So we're hoping to have that out to bid probably early fall this year. So the design is basically done for the tank itself. We are just working on the road construction of what we needed to do to be able to get the equipment in and out. And again, that meeting happened last week with the geotech. So that was I think the last hurdle for us.
Okay. And besides everyone's pet peeve, you might say, or interest by the streetlights, the streets themselves. We have about $5 million this year, and I think a little less next year, or next for that we're going to put in there. If you add in the contribution from the enterprise, the water fund, how much does that go up?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that number, but we could get that for you. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. But I'm sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head.
No worries. It's just that we're all interested in getting the streets
Yes,
fixed.
absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Yes.
Let's see. ERP system. When's it going to be completed?
When is it going to be completed? So utility billing is going live this week. As Jeff mentioned, the permits and licensing is anticipated to go live in July. And the asset management module is in the contract. It's scheduled for September, but I don't know.
It's October.
Okay, so October is the more updated month. So by the end of the fiscal year, the end of the calendar year, the goal is to have all of those pieces up and running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Passports. Is it taking care of itself, or is it paying for itself?
No. Well, it does keep increasing year to year. We've noticed, especially this past 6 months, there's been a kind of a slowdown to everything, and I think part of it is the Real ID thing and the changes that are going on with the federal government. A lot of people aren't traveling, or they're just waiting to see kind of how things go. We had to purchase a new camera and printer, so the lifespan of those is not what we anticipated it would be. But it is a service that the community definitely seems to enjoy, and there's been much appreciation from not just Glendora residents, but surrounding cities, so that people don't have to go to the post office.
How are you seeing your numbers? Are they going up, staying the same? Or?
You know, they were going up until probably the last, I'd say, 3 months. And then they kind of, and this is the time where we expected it to go up. So last year, this was our busy time, and we were inundated with passports. And we were expecting that again, and it hasn't happened. So we're not quite sure why that is. But most of the time, people are getting ready to go on vacation. So it's this April, May tends to be really busy with passports.
Okay. Thank you, Kathleen. Sam, IT, $3 million plus. What is that being spent on, and is it across different departments?
Yeah, so the software implementations that we have for ERP, we have contract services for our help desk, which is a big portion of that. Again, it's majority of it is software across the software and licensing. I mean, our Microsoft contract is, I think, $300-something thousand a year.
Are we utilizing more cloud services, or?
A ton more cloud services, yeah.
Okay.
So most of our infrastructure is being moved to the cloud.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't know that he was moving his mic there. One of the last questions. Library. Janet. How have the library services changed? You touched on it a little bit. How is it progressing? And the population going in and out of the library, is it increasing, staying the same? And where do you see this besides the digital domain moving forward? Do you see, and also having some experts there? It sounded like that you wanted to have cubicles or folks there of expert folks there.
Oh, well, our current staff, those are the experts. And part of what the library building does is gives them a space to organize and make accessible the world of ideas. We can't do it without those people. So and they just need a home. And sometimes I think when the community thinks of the library, all they think of are is the shelves of books, and it's far more than that, including the current experts we already have. So let's see, I heard a bundle of different questions in there. So in terms of gate count to the actual building, we have not returned to pre-COVID levels. I think the last number Elke ran was between 3,000 and 4,000 visitors a week. So, and before COVID, it was about 5,000 visitors a week. However, we are steadily increasing our out in the community program attendance. And if you do a rough count of the impressions, meaning the contacts that the library makes with the community, it's roughly half and half between what happens inside the bricks and mortar building and what happens outside in the community or online. So that's one way that things are shifting, and that the emphasis on the experiences is industry-wide, so to speak, for public libraries, that people are much more interested in the events and the programming and the ways of learning and interacting than they are in the traditional collections. So we've been shifting to meet that change and meet that need.
You answered it.
All right.
So are you going to miss this?
Parts of it, a lot. Yes. Parts of it, a lot. Thank you.
Bill, we have the Girl Scout hut that's up there, or somewhat of a facsimile of a building. Is that going to get addressed, or does it even get utilized? Or I don't know which one.
We do not use the Girl Scout cabin at all. The septic tank is bad on it, and we don't use it for anything. Our day camp cabin has been redone with the help of Public Works, which we'll use for the 8 weeks while we're up there, and then our spring camp and stuff.
So on the mud camp that's out there right now, we get tons of folks that go up there, and they love that every year. Is that expandable?
No, we expanded it from 80 a week to 100, and that is about the total number of campers we can be there in the canyon as we're doing other things. They have 8 groups that go out in different facets, archery, hiking, crafts, and it's pretty crowded once they're all there.
Do you have a waiting list currently?
Yes.
What's that roughly in the number?
The first couple weeks range, you can get 20 to 30 people on the waiting list, and as the summer goes on, that gets down to 5 or 10.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, John. All the questions I have.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I have just a couple of comments and some questions. Regarding the Finkbeiner Storm Project, understand that, and the money's sort of. My thought is that money that we will have in hand prior to beginning of construction, or is it a reimbursement grant?
That's why we haven't started construction, because the Valerie's working on the transfer agreement now. The money will transfer in over the next couple of fiscal years. We did not want to start that until we actually had the money in hand in case something happened. We didn't want to be on the hook for that. So we will have the majority of that money in hand when the project starts. The last bit should come in as we're finishing the project itself.
Thank you. I agree. My thought is if we're forced to do this, let them pay for it, and then okay, good deal. On our CIT program and our homelessness issues and efforts, continue to applaud those, but frankly, I don't think we should be paying for that out of our general fund. I think we would all agree. So we definitely, this body needs to go beat on the people that are holding the money or taking the money, and we need our money back. Cities all around us are doing the same problem. They're spending tons of money and not getting it, and that's not good for our general fund. So let's do what we can to help that cause. I support the Measure Z and E proposals. That's just great. Question on our urban forest manual, and we were discussing that a bit. I've had a long time hope that we might be able to accelerate our trim schedule. And I know you're still learning what the experts will say on that, but hopefully some of this budgeting might actually allow us to accelerate some of that.
I think one of the things that we've discovered as we've gone through this process is when you start talking about the pruning cycle for trees, a lot of that's related to the age and the type of tree that we have. So for certain areas like our palm trees, where we try and take care of the fruit and get those things out, we're doing annually, that's important. For a lot of our mature trees, especially our oaks and some of our pine trees, a cycle that's more frequent than every 5 years actually starts to put the tree into some stress. So we are looking at what those options are for that. But again, that pruning cycle is very dependent on age. One of the things that's interesting is the younger the tree is, say the first 5 years, the more often it should be pruned as you develop the canopy structure. As the trees mature and they get larger, the less you prune them, the better the trees actually are. So we're working through that. I did hear your comments a while back about potentially moving that frequency up. So I think there's some things we're looking at with that, the way we're pruning, and then also talking about our method for pruning. Right now, we prune to what we call a natural state to make sure the tree looks like basically it would if we hadn't touched it, just trying to cleaning up the canopy and inside the tree. And then there's also, we get the request for shaping trees. So it's talking about how we do that, kind of how we manage both those expectations for pruning and cycle. So as we bring that urban forest manual forward, we'll have lots of information and discussion on those points.
Great. Well, thank you for including those other ambiances, if you will, to help the tree program. That's great. Let's see. I have a swimming pool question. Granted, we're participating or looking to participate with the school district because it's a joint use item. Do we utilize all of our allocated time as a recreation on the pool? And a second question I'll ask along with that, because there's been some outreach. We don't have a community plunge or community pool that people can go to on a regular basis. They feel like they've got to go to a neighboring city to perhaps do that. So are we utilizing our allocated time, and or can the pool's usage be open a little more away from?
We have summer hours. I think it's 1,760 hours that are given to us. We do not use it all during those 8 weeks that we're there. We could look into, but I know that during the school year, their pool starts at, I think, 6 in the morning and usually goes till 9 at night with all their different teams. So there's not a lot of free time during that hours to get lap swim in. We do offer that during the summer program, but that is about it in those 8 weeks.
Okay, well, hopefully we can at least work to maximize the available
Yeah.
time, and if we're not scheduled, maybe add schedule for free plunge or whatever.
Yeah, we do that on Fridays. We take our day camp there every Friday for open free
Clean
swim.
them up after dirt camp, that's
Yeah,
nice.
that is. Yeah.
Great, and my last thought on the pool is not you, so thank you, is I support the program to participating in the share option, but I would propose that we go with the 3-year, 300,000 program, only because I want to see some performance participation reward as opposed to and I realize it's when excess funds are there, but
Yeah, that was gonna be my only comment is the scenario A and B both exist under option 1 because you could have years where we have like 500 and then 200 and whatever. So it's our thought that how we spread it out over 2 or 3 years so we don't impact operations. Happy to move forward with whatever direction council has. Both of those are there because we can't tell what the future is going to
no,
look like. So,
I
and appreciate that acknowledgement.
But I
yeah.
think option 1, I certainly support. Scenario B, just because they got a big number, but haven't done the thing yet. Wait a minute. A little carrot, I guess, if you would call that.
Yeah.
So, and that's all I had. Thank you. So I guess at this point, we can
Mr. Mayor,
entertain
could I ask just one more thing?
Please.
Kyle, on, reserves, are we at 45%? And if we're not, where are we on that? Because I think you said that
We,
30 to 45%, and
yeah, we're not, the forecast, we are not at 45%. We are hovering around 40 to 42%, depending on the year. And so, but we're still up in the higher range of our contingency reserve policy. So, and some of that is taken on with noting this fund some of these capital projects and those items, and use some reserves for one-time things, and then evaluate the policy as we go every year.
And I'd just like to add to that, and Kyle, just for the body, the council's put away more money than only what's in the reserve. They put away money for future pension obligations that we could use in any year to fund one time.
Yeah.
So in essence, we are over that cap. We've just set aside money in different areas for specific items. So it's not just that we're at a 40% reserve, it's 40% plus. We have, if the world as we know it has a major change, Kyle and his team have set aside money for example, for pension costs one time. We have some reserves in our capital account to pay for an emergency if it pops up as well. So the city council, when you changed your financial policies and how we put money away, it was really wise. It's allowed staff to have money for various parts so we can withstand some challenges either in the economy for a short period of time and provide this council the option to work through that in a meaningful manner with the community.
Any other questions? Okay, then going back to our recommendations, it looks like we've accomplished number one with our presentation and discussion of the proposed budget. So we're really down to providing direction on utilization of measures E and Z funds and a direction regarding the request from Glendora Unified School District for pool improvements at the Glendora High School.
And Mr. Mayor.
Do you mind if we take those individually in
Oh,
2
I
and
think-
3?
Yeah, I will make a motion that we approve the recommendations set forth by staff for the Measure Easy funding.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Karen, a second by Mendel. I'm sorry, Michael? That's
I don't have the
looking
flat
this way. M-A-M-T.
In your dreams, my boy.
Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
And I'll make a motion that we approve option number one and allow staff the flexibility of how those payments are distributed.
I'll second.
Okay, option by Karen, second by Michael. Option one with options, okay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. With that, I'll bring it back for any closing comments, other than thank you all for an amazing presentation of a long time's work.
I would just like to add a couple things. Special thanks to Kyle and his team. I know a lot of the staff that are in the audience this afternoon really work hard. There's a lot of information that goes back and forth. It's not a perfect process. We miss things. We have omissions. We have to come back and make corrections. So just appreciative of your understanding and going through this process, allowing us to schedule the meeting this morning so we can do the board and commission interviews on the 10th in the afternoon starting at 4. So really appreciate all 5 of you being involved and invested in understanding what it takes to do this process. It really makes our job a lot easier. So we very much appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. With that, I will adjourn the meeting at 12:20.
There is